watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello and welcome to Entertaining Germantown. I'm your host, Parke Kennedy, and I'm here to help keep you informed about the amazing art and entertainment activities going on in this community. Today, our focus is going to be on some things that happen at the Germantown Performing Arts Center, otherwise known as GPAC, that you might not be aware of. We're going to talk about the important role GPAC plays in the local visual arts community. GPAC celebrates the visual arts by exhibiting a diverse collection of artwork by emerging and professional artists from around the region. These exhibitions take place throughout the year, and today we're going to talk with artists affiliated with the next two upcoming shows. We'll also talk about what has become the best secret jazz club in the region, GPAC's Jazz in the Box series. With me now are Yasmine Omari and Andrea Morales. Hi ladies, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to have you as our guests. So you guys represent exactly what I was just talking about, young visual artists in the community who you're having an exhibition coming up at GPAC. Also joining you in that exhibition is Ziggy Tucker, who's not here today, but you guys are good friends with him and you'll be able to tell us about his work. So how did this show come about? First of all, what's it called?
Okay, it's called Temporal Narratives, and it came about because I actually work at GPAC with you.
Yes.
And Patty Cooper, our visual coordinator, she came to me and she had seen my work before and she really wanted to have a show with it. And so, I started thinking about how we could do that, and I really wanted to include some other really strong photographers here in Memphis.
And just to interject, this is a photography exhibition. Yes. And so all three of you are photographers. Mm-hmm. So how did you get to know each other?
Well, when I first moved to Memphis about 3 years ago, I had started working with Crosstown on a volunteer capacity. While I was there, this woman named Brittany Bullock, who was with Crosstown at the time, she and I co-curated a show, and she knew Yasmine and Ziggy and recommended to have them as part of this show that was called Another Life, which dealt with this really kind of uncomfortable subject of death, basically, and talking about it as sort of in an artistic, interpretive way. So Yasmine and Ziggy and I and three other artists worked together on this piece. And so we connected there, and I was really grateful because I didn't have any photographic community at the moment. I was very new to the city, and it was I feel like it was a pretty successful introduction to sort of the nature of collaboration in this community.
Great. So you guys have some things in common beyond that exhibition, in that Yasmine, you're Palestinian American. Andrea, you're Peruvian American, so you have that experience of being of two cultures, and you're both photographers, so that's exciting. Now, and Ziggy does photography. He's a Memphian.
Yes.
He's African American, and also in his bio I noticed he's also describes himself as a mermaid whisperer. So we're definitely going to have to talk more about that as we go along, because we can't leave that alone. But so talk about this show, the theme, temporal narratives. What does that mean, and what can we expect to see at this exhibition?
Well, so the theme is something that we came up with through sort of a email discussion. We are, relatively familiar with the kind of work that each other does and the kind of things that we care about. And given that our first sort of group show experience was around this idea of death and time, we kind of wanted to sort of continue that conversation in a different sense, also celebrating the work that we love to do. So the idea of temporal narratives is sort of trying to approach time in a non-linear way. You know, Yasmine's work is so focused on memory. Ziggy's work really like explores space and sort of like a futuristic look at. I mean, we could spend like 8 minutes talking about Ziggy and all of his facets, honestly. But he spends so much this kind of like hyper, super fantastic space that he creates in his photographs. And I am more of a documentarian. And so my approach is kind of trying to like look at the sort of like linear nature of our history and our memory, but trying to collapse that at the same time through just like reflection in my practice. But
Yeah, it also has to do with how when we have a photo displayed, like the viewer puts a narrative to it themselves, and also there's the narrative of the photographer that excuse me, they had in mind when they took the photo. So there's kind of like competing narratives going on within a photo, and so we're going to also be exploring that as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So this show takes place the month of January, but there's an artist reception on January 19th from 5:30 to 7:30. And so that's a time when people can come and enjoy the show as it opens, have possibly some refreshment, possibly some entertainment. Will the pieces be for sale?
Yes, we will have them for sale.
Pieces will be for sale, and all three of you will have pieces in the show. If you will, Yasmine, tell us about your process. So how do you, first of all, sort of decide what to photograph? You know, is it instinctual? Do you just purely, I don't know how it works? And then how do you select pieces for a show like this? Do you go back? Do you make new work, or do you, with this in mind, or do you go back through things that you've done before and sort of rethink and refeel those pieces?
So for me, when I am out photographing, I'm really inspired by the moment. And so I kind of just let things happen around me, and I really will just kind of feel like when the right moment is to take the photo, and I'll explore it from different angles, and then I usually come to it like that. I do a lot of traveling, and so I take a lot of photos while I'm traveling, and I also sometimes I'll work on like smaller projects like here in Memphis, and I'll usually just, if I have like if I'm doing portraits, I'll maybe instruct the subject to move around in a certain space, and I'll photograph them like that, just being inspired by the moment.
Cool.
And then for choosing how, like, what pieces to put in the show, I kind of think about the theme that we talked about, and I kind of try to reflect on what pieces kind of show that the most. And I also, for me, I really think about composition and kind of the photo itself, what kind of story it tells, and how it can be perceived to the viewer, and if it fits along with the theme.
Great. So your work is similar in that you're all photographers and that you're sort of coming around this theme. Ziggy's pieces really stand out because of this mermaid element. So those of you who aren't familiar with Ziggy's work, or Yasmine's, or Andrea's, you definitely need to come and experience this exhibition. It's gonna be fantastic. Again, it's at GPAC. It's free and open to the public, January 19th from 5:30 to 7:30. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
It's time for a short break. When we come back, I'll be talking to members of the Memphis Guild of Handloom Weavers about their upcoming exhibition in the GPAC Lobby Gallery. Please stay with us.
checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, babe.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to Entertaining Germantown. Joining me now are Marianne May and Rhea Vander Awe, both members of the Memphis Guild of Handloom Weavers. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
So you're here as representatives of the Memphis Guild of Handloom Weavers, who are going to also be having an exhibition at GPAC coming up in the month of December. So the show will hang all of December, but there's an artist reception on December 9th from 4 to 6.
That's right.
So this is fascinating. This is an exhibition of textiles and woven by this Guild of Weavers. From what I understand, there's going to be about 16 or 17 pieces so far that you've identified to be in the show. And this organization is fascinating. 70 years old. Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
Yes, actually, Viola Joyce Quigley was our founder, and she came to Memphis in 1945. She had studied weaving several places, including the Chicago Institute, and her husband was here as the director of pharmacology at UT, and as a weaver, she initiated the weaving program at Memphis College of Art in 1946. And then in 1947, she founded the Memphis Guild of Handloom Weavers to focus on the appreciation of the fiber arts, and she started it with 13 members who actually were her class. Oh, wow. And at different times during our history, we've had up to like 55 members. I think that was during the 70s. Fiber arts were very popular. Right now we have about 25. And,
okay. And at varying levels of skill and,
definitely.
And experience. Rhea, I read in your bio that you've been a weaver you've been involved in crafting and weaving since you were little.
Yes.
So who taught you?
In the 70s, I went to a week-long workshop. It was on a farm. We were with a whole bunch of ladies. We ate together. We did everything together. We had, classes all day long, and in the evening we had dinner together, and then, we had.
So
we did
weaving collective.
We did weaving and spinning and dyeing with natural, onions and all that stuff.
And so the Guild has classes available now as well.
Yes, we do. Right now we are without a permanent home. Mm-hmm. So if you check with our website, we have a website, mghw.org, and there's information there about how you can join and our classes. I can't tell you where because we will have to do that as we find places to get our equipment out and have our classes again.
So I think people will be interested, especially when they see, we do have some footage of Rhea in her studio getting ready to work on a piece. Can you describe that process?
Yes, when I start something, in this case it was a scarf, first I find a pattern like you do, with knitting or crocheting. Find a pattern in a book or in a magazine. Then I measure out the warp, which is the vertical yarn that goes in the loom. Then I set up the loom. Then I will get some yarn on a bobbin, put it in a boat shuttle, which is the little wooden thing that I use. Then I, according to the pattern, I have to treadle, and which will open the shafts. I can throw the boat shuttle in there, beat it in place with the beater, open up, take another treadle, open up other yarn, and throw it back in there and beat it into place. That's how you keep going until you're at the end.
And so the result is something that looks like this.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful scarf, hand woven by Rhea, and this type of piece will also be available at the artist reception, just that one day, December 9th.
Yes.
At a table filled with more sort of wearable pieces.
Yes.
Now the exhibition itself is kind of almost a historical perspective of the Guild, right? So from what I understand, it's going to include some pieces representing your history, and then as well as pieces that are new works.
I believe so. I'm not sure how many of the historical pieces that we have included. We wanted to give our members a chance to show what they have worked on now. So I can't tell you right at this moment how many I know of at least one historical piece.
And the name of the show is The Path of the Weaver?
This is The Path of the Weaver was a show that the Guild had put on throughout the years, and so we're taking that name.
So you brought an example, and Rhea, you have an example too that you can hold up. So we have two examples of some of the work that will be hanging in the exhibition. This is Marianne's piece. As you can see, it's a fabulous interpretation of the Mississippi River, downtown Memphis, the bridge. And so this will be for sale. And then, Rhea, you have an example.
This is more abstract. You can not only weave with yarns, but in this case, I used wood. And this is a piece that is not finished yet, but you can see the wood.
The wood, okay.
For the weft.
Wonderful. And so there will also be some other decorative pieces, like this small pillow, and you also make more sort of practical, functional pieces like this purse. So we can't wait to see the show. Come on out, folks. December 9th, or really anytime the month of December,
Yes.
Anytime GPAC is open, to appreciate this amazing work. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
It's time for another short break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you all about the best secret jazz club in the region. Stay with us.
Preventing wildfires. That's all Smokey wants for his 70th birthday.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to Entertaining Germantown. I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Jack Schaffer, representing the GPAC Jazz Advisory Committee. Good afternoon, Jack. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk about the best secret jazz club in the region.
In the South.
So what is it? Where is it?
Jazz in the Box is a 100-seat cabaret-style theater at GPAC.
At GPAC.
Right. And it is an incredible atmosphere where we hold 6 shows starting in September, going through March, with some of the finest jazz musicians from around the world, not just the United States, but around the world.
So the Black Box Theater at GPAC, where these shows take place, it's a small little theater.
100-seat cabaret.
100-seat cabaret, so it's an intimate setting.
Right.
From what I understand, there's a show at 7 and a show at 8:30 for every one of these performances.
That's correct. Tickets are sold for each set.
Tickets are sold for each set.
$25.
But you can buy a ticket to both sets.
Both sets.
A ticket because they're not the same music being played.
Yeah, they play different sets, different music at different sets.
So that said, who performs at Jazz in the Box?
Well, our Jazz Advisory Committee researches constantly the best musicians that we feel will make a connection with our audience at GPAC. And so far it's done pretty well. Our season ticket sales are about sold out before we even announce who's coming there, so it's pretty exciting.
Amazing. So GPAC has a very appreciative and very sort of informed jazz audience.
Yeah, that audience has grown over the years, and we're very excited about that.
So quite a challenge to keep them happy and bring the quality of programming that's going to keep them interested throughout the years. How did all this come about?
Well, the building blocks for Jazz in the Box started in 1995 and 96 when we had our first main stage jazz show that featured Dave Brubeck. And that was a sold-out house. And every year after that, we wanted to have another artist, or maybe 2, perform. And each one of those were just mind-blowing with the artists that we had. So in 2005, the Jazz Committee was formed, and we said, you know, wouldn't it be great if we had a little series held in our Black Box Theater and we started out with 4 shows. That was very successful, and it has grown from 4 shows to 6 shows a year. And again, featuring the greatest jazz artists in the world. And we also feature our local musicians.
That's great. So it must be quite a challenge kind of constantly trying to stay a step ahead, researching new talent, finding out who's doing what, and then planning in advance. So from what I understand, sometimes you're planning out as far as 2 years in advance.
Oh, we're planning for 2020 right now. We've already got 2018 and 19 almost booked, and working on 2020. I've had the great fortune of traveling around the country and seeing some great artists and meeting them and telling them about our venue. And when I mention Memphis, they just get excited because Memphis has such a great jazz legacy, and they want to come play here. So, and some of these artists who've come to play at Jazz in the Box were so popular and enjoyed the experience so much working with you and the advisory committee and coming to GPAC that they're actually coming back to perform on the main stage. Oh yeah, Cyril Aimé, a great jazz singer from France, was here 2 years ago, and now she's going to be playing this coming year at GPAC on the main stage. We've got Jamani Smith, another Jazz in the Box graduate, who'll be playing on the main stage. So they love to come back here. That's fantastic. They love our audience. So coming up in the spring, there are 3 more Jazz in the Box performances. Right. You want to tell us about Russell Hall? Russell Hall, a bass player that I met in Vail, Colorado, and he's got a great trio. He's a wonderful bass player, great personality. And then we're going to have a local group, Joe Restivo and his trio are going to
Right.
be playing.
Very
And
popular.
And then we have a Master Jazz Guitar Series that we feature great guitarists from all over the world, and we'll have Howard Alden from LA this year.
Incredible. So tell us a little bit about, you're in this cabaret style seating, you've got your cocktail that you've purchased outside, you're in this intimate venue, and this incredible artist is performing, you know, kind of like right there. What does that feel like? How do you...
Let me tell you, the most important thing is people are there to listen. Not only do we try to get great musicians, but we want entertainers, people who will connect with the audience, and it happens every time. And that's why you can hear a pin drop when these people are playing. Yeah.
The few that I've attended, I've been struck by how it's almost a storytelling atmosphere. There's this ever deepening as the set goes on, connection between the artist and the audience, because sometimes there's a few requests, sometimes it's just, you know, the audience will react to whatever piece was performed, and then the artist kind of goes on and carries it on from there. And sometimes there's some storytelling, some background to the pieces or their career that really...
There's a great reciprocal connection between the artist and our audience.
Right.
And they have so much respect for the artist, and that artist just makes a wonderful connection to our people. And it just makes for the best show.
Best show.
Yeah.
And it's hugely popular, which did not go unnoticed by Amro Music, who's come in as a sponsor,
Our sponsor.
this year.
We appreciate that. The first time we've had a sponsor for the Jazz in the Box, and that's helped us quite a bit to help bring in higher level artists.
Well, that's a healthy sign.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We look forward to the shows in the spring. For tickets, contact the GPAC box office.
Right. Tickets are $25.
About $25
per set.
And there's a support group called the Jazz Set, which, if you're interested, you can call GPAC
Right.
and
It's a
ask about
subscription
that.
for
Yeah.
sponsorship. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jack, for being here today. Love talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
It's time to wrap up this episode. I'd like to thank my guests for being here and you, the viewer, for joining us on Entertaining Germantown. If you'd like to watch this or other shows on Germantown Municipal Television, please visit www.gmtvonline.org. I hope you will join us when Entertaining Germantown returns next month.